How you doing?
I'm doing good, man.
Good?
Yeah.
An Armenian. 2 Armenians in a room.
Happens, right?
I mean, it's a miracle, but it does happen every once in a while.
Yeah, I feel the connection already.
See the connection as well. You know, obviously I've seen your stuff for many years. You know, you've done stuff that TEDx, TED Talks, 10 million views. You've always making new predictions every year. What's going to happen, the risks, all that stuff. How does somebody wake up one day and say, I want to get into this space? How did it happen to you?
So when I went to college, I was really young. I was 15. And I grew up with nothing. I grew up in the projects. I'd never traveled anywhere. I had a professor, this was back in 1986. I had a professor that was leading a trip to the Soviet Union. This is when Gorbachev first came in. This was before reform. This is like super evil empire Reagan days, right? And I begged him, take me on this trip. And so here I am as a kid, finding myself halfway around the world, behind the Iron Curtain, authoritarian regime, communism, crazy government, but meeting young people that in many ways are just like you and me. Fascinating. And then 3 years later, the wall comes down. So I was very much, very impressionable, in the right place at the right time. The world was changing. Felt like democracy was winning. It felt like our ideas were actually, sort of becoming, helping people all over the world. And how could you not want to do something with that, be a part of that? So that's what inspired me to want to understand different people everywhere and try to do something with that.
15 years old, you go to Tulane.
15 years old. It was not my fault. It's not like I said I want to go to Tulane at 15.
15 years old.
Yeah,
you're in a party town. What do you do?
Well,
where are you staying at?
You lie about your age.
right off the bat.
Well, girls are not going to date a 15-year-old, and it wasn't like I was going to troll high schools, right? No, so I just pretended I was just 18. I pretended I was normal, and then I joined a frat, and that didn't go so well. But
what happened?
They promised they weren't going to haze, and they lied. And I couldn't really handle it. So I quit. But when you're 15 in college, and especially at a party school, the hard thing is not your grades in the classes. The hard thing is trying to find a way to actually be a normal kid. And so here I am by myself for the first time away from family and trying to learn how to socialize with people, how to just be normal. And that took a lot of effort.
How's mom handling it? Was mom we're taking one of our kids to a soccer camp, right? For IMG, and he's going to be there for a week. So does he stay at the school? Does he stay with us? Does he stay at the campus? So how does mom handle you being gone at 15? How does she do that? Because mom's Armenian. Yeah,
mom's Armenian. My dad was German. Died when I was 4.
Your dad died. You died. Your dad died when you were 4.
Yeah. They met. My dad was an enlisted man in the Army, and my mom was in high school. Met on Revere Beach. And she fell in love, quit high school, eloped with him because he was being sent out to Ecuador to be based, and she was an officer's wife. And so that was the background. So when he died, she went back to Boston, Chelsea, where her family was, and her life came crashing down. And I was her life, and then my brother later.
Is that mom and dad there?
That's mom and dad. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
4 years old.
Yeah. 4 years old.
What happened to him?
Cancer. And
that's young.
Yeah, he was in his 40s. He was young 40s at the time.
So you going to Tulane? Can you pull up the Tulane picture? I just saw it. You pulled it up.
Oh my God!
That was great seeing it.
Really?
You're playing chess.
Oh my God, that's a horrible
Seriously?
photo. That's a horrible photo.
You're playing chess.
Look at those David Stockman glasses. Look at the velour sweater. It's not good. I didn't know you were going to do this to me.
That's cool. That is cool.
I haven't seen that photo in
15
years.
years old. That is
yeah.
So did you do a 4-year program in a 2-year thing? Is that kind of what happened with you because you were going through it fast, or did you do full 4 years?
I did the full 4 years, but I traveled everywhere. I went to the Soviet Union a couple times. I went to Japan. I did my junior year abroad. I went from nowhere, growing up in Chelsea, Massachusetts, to traveling everywhere because there were all these opportunities.
How old were you when you went to Russia?
I would have been 16.
Soviet Union.
First time 16.
What, I don't know if you saw when Tucker went to interview Putin and he's explaining what the subways and all this stuff looks like, right? What was it for you? Impressionable kid, you're going there. What did you notice?
Subways were incredible, of course.
Okay.
And they're super, super deep underground. They
Yeah.
were meant to be bomb shelters. All of this incredible marble, artistry, grandiose. I mean, you know, communism, and it was meant to show the average Soviet citizen that this is Soviet power. It's accessible to everyone. But my first experience was very different from that. It's a funny story. So this was the Hotel Cosmos, which was, the Hotel Rossiya. I was at the Cosmos as well, but the Hotel Rossiya. And it was in Moscow. It was right off Red Square. And at the time, it was the largest hotel in the world. It was where the Olympic athletes, the Americans, if Carter hadn't boycotted, would have been staying there. And so here I am. That's the Hotel Rossiya. It's right. You see the Kremlin in the background there on the left, and there's the river. So anyway, there I go, and there's 10 of us, 14 of us on the trip, all students from Tulane and our professor. We're 2 to each room, these little single beds, and you're trundling with your suitcase up the stairs, down these long hallways, and it was dark. And I was jet lagged. I'd never been jet lagged in my life before. I'm zonked out of my skull. I have no idea where I am. And I go to put the light on in the room because it's dark. So it's a single bed, and there's a clip-on lamp that is clipped to the little headboard on the back of my bed behind the pillow. And so I go to try to turn the knob on the lamp. There's no knob. It turns out that it's on the wire behind the headboard. So I break rule number 1 in the former Soviet Union, which is never put your hand someplace you can't see. I reach behind the headboard, and as I go to turn on the light, it turned out that the plastic casing had been broken, eaten through. My finger went into the copper wires. I electrocute myself and pass out.
Get out of here.
Swear to God.
16 years old.
16 years old. My first 10 minutes in like this hotel in Moscow, and I had passed out on the bed. It was, and it just, you realize suddenly that, okay, this is not like in the United States, you eat an apple pie and it says caution and it's really hot. There are no fucking caution signs in the former Soviet Union, okay? So it was just a real come to Jesus moment of, okay, Ian, you're going to need to like actually be a little more aware of your surroundings here. You're going to have to like pay attention.
First experience.
What else?
What else was it for you? Like maybe when you left, you're on the flight back, you're talking to your roommate. What are you telling him?
I'm saying like, what an incredible, mind-blowing, all of these different places. I thought that communists were all the same. I thought like the Soviet Union, they were all going to be these mindless automatons that hated us. Turned out, I mean, you had Armenians and you had Georgians and Azeris and Russians and Ukrainians, and they had different parts of the Soviet Union, and they acted differently. Their culture was different. Their languages were different. I mean, and some of it I had some personal and cultural connection with. And it was nothing like what I heard in the newspapers, what I read in the Boston Herald, when I was growing up as a kid. It was nothing like that. It was so much more rich.
When's the last time you went back to Russia?
Oh, it would have been before the pandemic, but not much before.
So 2019, 2018.
Yeah, that sounds
what was it
right.
like? What was the biggest difference from 18 to when you went in 86?
Oh, I mean, first of all, just how much more money has come into these places, right? I mean, a lot of these countries are, now fully integrated into a global economy. And so you've got, that's another funny thing. Not my first trip to the Soviet Union, my second, also as a student, right, undergraduate student, a couple years later. And I knew from my first trip there that they were super interested in all of these American consumer goods and technology that they had no access to. I mean, so these were the days where you'd bring a pair of Levi's blue jeans and they'd want to trade because they couldn't get them themselves. So they'd want like a ballpoint pen, they couldn't get them. They wanted like, anything that was like decent, basic American branded stuff. So I went to remember the Sharper Image?
Of course.
Yeah. So, I mean, as a kid, I remember it was right off of Faneuil Hall in Boston, and that was a super fancy shop. You couldn't buy anything from there, but it was cool. You'd like all this fancy stuff.
Yeah.
So I went there. I told them I was going to the Soviet Union. I said, would you give me like 100 of your catalogs so that when I go and meet these kids, I can show them the stuff that Americans have that we could just buy, which I thought would blow their mind, right? I mean, like, sort of capitalism, like for behind the Iron Curtain. And so I get there. I remember one of the things that completely blew their mind. This would have been in 88, 89.
This is the second time you went.
Second time I went as a student. And there was a cordless phone, right? So a home cordless phone.
Sharper image,
Sharper
US,
image.
right?
Sharper image US. It was, it floated and it was waterproof. And it was so you could use it in your swimming pool. Now, imagine the orders of complete befuddlement that the average former Soviet would have with that concept. I mean, one, phones have wires. So how is it possible that you can be talking into this device that isn't physically connected? Secondly, what do you mean it floats? What are you talking about? A swimming pool, like what, you bring it with you to the common swimming pool? No, your own swimming pool that a lot of them, my aunt had, who was like perfectly middle class, had a swimming pool in her backyard. You could have used it there on your floaty, right? And that's all of that was completely inconceivable for an 18-year-old kid in the Soviet Union. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I remember in Iran, I had never had, we were told, like, rich people eat this fruit called ananas, okay? Pineapple. Right?
Yeah.
And banana.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, man, one day, that'd be so freaking amazing. So we would be, every once in a while, we would get Nutella. And if you got Nutella, German Nutella would come in, let me tell you, we're fighting over Nutella. I mean, it was like, everybody's fighting to get it done. But we go to Germany. And for the first time, I have, what do you call it, banana.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
You never had a banana before?
I'd never had a banana.
How old were you?
11 years old.
11 years old.
First time I had banana, Ian, I'm like, I cannot believe they kept this away from me for 11 years.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I ate pineapple, like full on, they're cutting it, not the one out of a can.
Yeah.
And I'm eating this pineapple saying how sweet it is, right? So the innocence of a kid, in Russia, you're seeing that phone float, in water. You don't have to worry about wireless. It's got to be a big deal to somebody like that that's seen it. Nowadays, more than ever, the brand you wear reflects and represents who you are. So for us, if you wear a Future Looks Bright hat or a Valuetainment gear, you're telling the world, I'm optimistic. I'm excited about what's going to be happening, but you're a free thinker. You question things. You like debate. And by the way, last year, 120,000 people got a piece of Future Looks Bright gear with Valuetainment. We have so many new things. The cufflinks are here. New Future Looks Bright. This is my favorite, the green one. Just yesterday, somebody placed an order for 100 of these. If you watch the PBD podcast, you got a bunch to choose from. White ones, black ones. If you smoke cigars and you come to our cigar lounge, we have this high quality lighter cutter and a holder for the cigars. We got sweaters with the Valuetainment logo on it. We got mugs. We got a bunch of different things. But if you believe the future looks bright, if you follow our content and what we represent with Valuetainment, with PBD Podcast, go to vtmerch.com. And by the way, if you order right now, there's going to be a special VT gift inside just for you. So again, go to vtmerch.com, place your order, tell the world that you believe the future looks bright. If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.